Te reo ererangi o te mānia. This episode was produced in Otatahi by Plains Media, with support from New Zealand On Air.
It's time for Emergence News on Plains FM 96.9, citizen-made radio.
Kia ora and welcome to Emergence News. This program is brought to you from Plains Media, which is based in the centre of Christchurch City in New Zealand, Aotearoa. And in the studio joining me today is Peter. Good morning, Peter.
Hello, Nigel. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How about yourself?
Yep.
How's that house going that you're working on at the moment?
Yes, it's challenging.
And how about the knees?
Yes.
Is that the part that's challenging?
Yeah. Well, we've got some good labour there, so it'll all come out on the right side of things. So
sounds good. Yeah, the weather's still behaving. We're into autumn now here in Christchurch, and autumn and spring, I have to say, John, are the two seasons which are just simply glorious here in Christchurch.
I've had a similar conversation, Nigel, but I'd have to say they're changing. They're losing shape. You know, one of the things I loved about Christchurch, and when I came back to New Zealand I chose Christchurch, was because we had 4 seasons. But we had 30 degrees on Friday here, and then we had 15 degrees the next day.
And almost a frost out at my place this morning.
And then we had huge rain. So that autumn transition from a hot Canterbury summer to a cold, crisp winter, I just think we're losing it. We're getting lots of low cloud, lots of dreary grey days.
A quick sneak preview. What are you looking at today?
I've gone back to a book called The Art of Cooperation a number of years ago, had a look at various sections of it, and then didn't really get it. It kind of threw me a little bit, and I found it a bit difficult. But I've decided to have another go at it because I think cooperation is the keynote for the new era that we're going into. And so Benjamin Creme talks about cooperation as an art, and from that I take it that we practice it and refine it and learn it. I don't think it's something that jumps out of your genes.
Okay, we'll look forward.
Genes with a G, not a J.
Thank you for clarifying that. Maitreya's teachings demonstrate and affirm the interconnectedness of everything in the world. This is the rationale of the law of karma, the law of cause and effect. When humanity truly understands this law, the law of karma, not just as an intellectual idea, humanity will see that every thought, every action sets in motion a cause or causes. And of course, the law of cause and effect, Peter, that's what governs this planet, the solar system.
That's right, yes.
It is
no
escaping
it.
There's no escaping this law.
It governs the universe. It is the law because it's a law of energy use or misuse.
Yes, that's
and
right.
The universe is energetic.
It's got to be balanced. Everything's got to be balanced.
Okay, well, you'll find this interesting. We were just talking about the weather earlier, John. This is taken from Benjamin Creme's book, The World Teacher for All Humanity. And he says earthquakes, tornadoes, flooding, storms are all called acts of nature or acts of God. Maitreya argues these events are a result of the law of karma. It is not a question of God punishing the aggressor. Maitreya says it is a simple law of the interconnectedness of all atoms in the universe. What happens here sets up something that will inevitably happen elsewhere by the law of action and reacting. The need for harmlessness in every action becomes apparent. When we act, we have to know what the result of this action could be. We have evolution in our hands. We are responsible. Now, most of us cannot imagine how far our thought proceeds before it returns as a reaction. Our thought forms, if destructive, impinge on the forces of nature. And these forces are under the control or the management of the devic evolutions. They go out of equilibrium as we are out of equilibrium. John, would you remind us of how we are inextricably linked with the devic evolution?
There's two evolutions on the planet, devic and human. And as Peter pointed out a couple of programs ago, our physical bodies are actually constructed from devic life, devic entities, and that the devic evolution has a very strong connection to the matter aspect, the life aspect of the planet, and also it is devic life, that activity that we call weather. So there are highly evolved devic entities involved with the structure and life on this planet who report to Maitreya, who is the teacher of angels and men alike. You know, if we were sitting around a fire sharpening blunt sticks somewhere, we might say the weather gods are angry. I don't think the weather gods, and in this case are devic entities, I don't think the weather entities are angry. I think they're irritated.
Yes, they're out of balance.
I think it's more like a skin irritation than I'm going to punish the puny humans. I think they are out of balance. I think our treatment of the planet has pushed those devic entities into a state of unwellness. Not anger, but unwellness.
Good point. So we have to have the insight. We need to acquire the insight and the intelligent response to our feelings and intuition about how we live. If we listen to our intuition, our heart, we can learn to live in a way that is harmless. And we've talked about harmlessness on this program frequently.
Yeah.
Which is so it's not being greedy, selfish or antagonistic that pull between ourselves and society or between our country and another country. Our modern world, it's built on competition, isn't it?
Yeah.
We need to learn cooperation.
Yes, we do. And I think cooperation, well, from what I've been reading so far, it is the way forward. And when we look at harmlessness, when we look at karma, I think one of the ways you can steady your personal canoe of karma is by practicing cooperation, because I think cooperation and harmlessness go hand in hand. I don't think you can cooperate effectively unless you're practicing harmlessness. I think there's a relationship there, and I think cooperation has an effect on your karmic journey, a positive effect.
That's right. And, I mean, it takes the steam out of a tense situation if you cooperate with somebody.
Yeah.
Instead of being anti them.
Yeah.
It just suddenly smooths the way.
Right. So I'm looking at the book, The Art of Cooperation by Benjamin Creme, and with all of this stuff, I always look at when it was written. Benjamin Creme wrote this back in 2002, right?
It's more than 20 years ago.
So, but when you look at it's, and I get this every time we read Maitreya or read the Master or read Benjamin Creme, it's timeless and it's always so relevant. So what I've done is I've gone to the contents page of the book and I've had a look at some of the content, and I want to titillate our listeners. In this book, Benjamin Creme talks about right relationship. He talks about cooperation versus competition. So therefore he talks about sports, which is one of the ways we express our need for war and competition. He talks about karma. He talks about love and detachment, free will. He talks about the art of cooperation overcoming glamour. So this art of cooperation sits very deeply in esoteric spiritual practice. So I'm going to start with, the book is formatted around Benjamin Creme's Master talks on a topic, and then Benjamin Creme kind of breaks it down for us, if you like, and answers some questions around it. So Benjamin Creme's Master starts with a talk called Cooperation. And I'm just going to pick up part of some of the ideas there. So he says cooperation is the natural result of right relationship. Right relationship likewise follows wise cooperation. Now, we've talked about right relationship on this program ad infinitum because it is the basis of life on the planet. If right relationship wasn't so important, we'd get a planet each when you're incarnated, right? But we don't. We get one with 8 billion souls on it that you're constantly bumping into. It's very difficult in this modern planet to get away from people, right? So clearly there's a reason for them being here. So Benjamin Creme, if you're interested in right relationship, dive into Benjamin Creme. Anyway, he goes on to say, cooperation holds the key to all successful group effort and is a manifestation of divine goodwill. Without cooperation, nothing lasting can be achieved, for cooperation brings into synthesis many diverse points of view. Cooperation is another word for unity. Unity and cooperation are the springboards to the future and the guarantee of achievement for all men. Great reservoirs of power lie untapped within humanity, waiting for the magic of cooperation to unleash. So, Peter, he puts cooperation into that magic bucket, and I'm wondering if the ray structures incoming for the planet are going to carry a flavour of cooperation.
Yes, well, hopefully they will, but we need to get past the sixth ray fading out and the seventh ray coming in. I think it's not a good time perhaps for cooperation.
Yeah, I don't think the sixth ray allows for cooperation because the sixth ray needs to feel right so that you can go on with the madness, right? Anyway, back to the master who knows more about this than I do.
No wonder it's a rough ride at the moment.
The master says, competition strains the natural order. Cooperation liberates the goodwill in men, and Benjamin Creme's talked a lot about goodwill as being the lowest aspect of love on this planet. Competition cares only for the self, whereas cooperation works for the highest good of all. And we've talked a lot about one of my Benjamin Creme's favourite quotes is, there's two types of people on the planet, me people and we people. Me people can't cooperate. Me people compete. The master goes on to say, competition leads to separation, the origin of all sin. Cooperation seeks to blend and fuse the many-coloured strands of the one divine life. Competition has led man to the precipice. Cooperation alone will help him find the path. The old and backward-looking love competition, the new embrace the joy divine cooperation. The people of the world can be divided into two kinds, those who compete and those who cooperate. Cleanse the heart of the stain of competition. Open the heart to joyful cooperation. So what the master's saying is that the ability to cooperate is tied to your point of evolution, is tied to your ray structure, and cooperation is a divine practice. Right?
Of course it is.
We've talked about harmlessness as something you have to pick up and practice. And my feeling so far, and I'm not too far into the book, is that cooperation has that aspect. It is a spiritual practice. All right. That Benjamin Creme's comes back with. The world is divided into two groups, those who are holding on to the old greedy and selfish nationalistic systems. And I'd have to say, when you think about those who are holding on to the old greedy and selfish nationalistic systems, that philosophy is in the ascendancy at the moment on this planet, due in part to the fact that mindset controls the media.
Yes, everything's materialistic, isn't it? And we need more of the spiritual.
So that is the message we're getting strongly bashed into us at the moment about nationalism, which really is so out of date, right? Yes. And he goes on to say, selfish nationalist systems and those thus represent the reactionary forces of the world. and those who are opening to the new incoming energies of Aquarius. So that's the others, who are also looking for a way of brotherhood and cooperation, a realization of the interdependence that results from the fact that we are one humanity. And we've talked on this planet on this program about the planet being a spaceship, and that we are crew members, and that if we understand that, we would cooperate in the management of the planet, not compete, right? Okay, so I've kind of flicked around a bit, which is my want and my style. Benjamin Creme talks a lot about we believe competition is our right because we reflect back to the animal kingdom. And we go, look, the antelope and the lion compete. What Benjamin Creme says is that the antelope's only ever frightened of the lion when the lion's hungry. They share the water sources. They share the shade, right? And you only need to fear the lion when the lion is hungry. So he's saying what we perceive as cooperation is just instinct. But we've taken it, we've viewed the animal kingdom and say, cooperation is part of the animal kingdom, therefore we can bring it into our endeavours. Benjamin Creme comes back with, but we are not just animals. Although we owe our bodies and certain of our instincts to the animal kingdom, we are souls in incarnation. And I'm sorry, but the lion is not, right? The lion, the cat community has one oversoul. They're not individualised souls.
They're
right?
group souls.
They're group souls, right? Interestingly enough, Benjamin Creme says that the cat oversoul is Ray 3 and the dog oversoul is Ray 2. That's why your dog loves you, right? That's why the cat eats and leaves, because you're not smart enough for it, probably. I'm a dog person. I'm a lover.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not that smart, but I'm a lover.
Must be Ray 2.
Ray 2, right? Here we go. I love this stuff. Benjamin Creme. We are souls. As souls, something other than competition comes into play in the relationships between men and men, between groups, between nations. We are not always competing, but when we do, we always end up destroying ourselves. War is competition writ large, and is something which humanity has turned to again and again for different reasons. For grandizement, booty, for pleasure, as often as not, as in the Middle Ages, to keep the sword arm strong, for the sheer enjoyment of what replaced the chase, the hunt, the chase of our brothers and sisters of a different colour, religion, tribe or race. So he's gone back into the early stages of humanity and looked at where competition has come from. And basically he's saying competition, however, seems to be inborn in the human psyche. Everyone to a greater or lesser extent is competitive. We have to recognise it and deal with that fact. Most siblings are competitive. They compete for the love, approval and attention of their parent. If they do not get enough, they hate the other sibling and take it out on the younger child. In every family where there are 2 or 3 children, the first one is fine until age 2 when the next one comes along, right? Mm-hmm. And I guess we're all sitting here now looking at our own family structures going, yeah, why did my older brother do that to me? The responsibility of parents is enormous. Since competition between siblings is almost inevitable, it has to be controlled and replaced by cooperation, which I believe has to be taught. And I'm really, really getting some strong ideas around parenting and what you have to teach your children. And I've come to the conclusion that as a parent, you have to teach your child everything. Everything. Right? Benjamin Creme has said in previous writings that 100% of human behaviour is learned. Right? And for a long time I thought, I don't know if I agree with that. I'm going to give you 80%. I don't think I'll give you 100%. But I'm starting now to change that. And I'm starting to think when the human child is born, it knows nothing. You have to teach it everything.
And young children are great observers, aren't they?
Yeah, they are mimics. They observe, right? And so, I've even in my own life, my daughter had to be taught to take the breast, right? She had as a newborn, had no ability to take the breast, had to be shown and taught. And I kind of went, what? She didn't even know that. Oh, this is going to be tough. Right? So we have to teach. He goes on to say, I'm back to Benjamin Creme now, I've stopped ranting. Everyone in today's imperfect society is conditioned. That I agree with. Every parent conditions their children in the way that they were conditioned. We are passing on our conditioning all the time. We have to be very aware, very sensitive and intelligent to realise what we are doing. And also extremely patient and detached. We have to create the conditions of cooperation for our children from the earliest age. Now, the observation I've had around parenting is we give the child a ball. This is your ball. This is yours. Own it. Look after it. Care for it. But when little Johnny comes over to play...
You're supposed to share it.
You're supposed to share your ball. And our child's going, no, it's my ball. And we're going, but let Johnny play with it. Well, hold on. You've taught the child to own and not to share. You've taught the child already competition.
The child's been conditioned already.
The child has been conditioned already. Benjamin Creme goes on to bring into this concept of divine goodwill. He says the desire principle is very powerful and instinctively expresses itself through competition. And for me, Peter, that's back to your point of evolution. I suspect on this planet there are some people that cannot cooperate.
Yes, I think we go through stages of it. I mean, you learn squash perhaps as a younger person, and you're going to beat them the hell of high water, aren't you?
Yeah.
But it seems to be natural, doesn't it? It's sort of like,
yeah.
And it's an interesting thing. You talked about sport at the start of your book, the arena of sport,
which has become gladiatorial.
Yes, but it's interesting, isn't it? Because there is individual sport and there's team sport.
Yeah.
And some people are much more attracted to team sport, and I wonder if they're drawn to the joy of cooperation.
Actually, good point. Now, all our listeners will know of the earth-shattering global dominance of the All Blacks, right? They have a culture of cooperation within the team. Now, they compete furiously with their opponent, but within the team, they have a culture of cooperation. And although as an individual they are competing to take the field in their chosen position, and rugby's a positional sport, they share ideas. The individuals competing for the position on the field on any given day cooperate in their skill set so that the best prepared individual takes the field.
And if they really develop that team culture, it becomes easier to be on the reserve bench than it used to back in the past.
Yeah.
Because it's the goal is the success of the team is more important than individual. And I used to think when I was a child in the All Blacks, that wasn't how they operated, but they do now.
Yeah,
so there's been progression, there's been evolution there.
I suspect back in the day that the competition within the All Blacks was quite savage and quite brutal, but today they have this culture, and I suspect other sporting environments too, this culture of cooperation to get the best out of us as a group on the field on that day. And I think there's a lot to be learned in a spiritual aspect from professional sports. All right, anyway, divine goodwill. He goes on to say, it could cooperate, but grasping, fighting for what it feels its needs, certainly for what it wants, it competes, kills if necessary, hurts and destroys. That is the story of humanity's life until it reaches the stage at which the soul, the divine aspect whose nature is goodwill, demonstrates. As the Master says, cooperation is the demonstration of divine goodwill. It is the soul that demonstrates goodwill, which makes us want to cooperate. Look, I'm just going to finish with the last paragraph here. Benjamin Creme goes on to say, it is very difficult for human beings in physical bodies, and I'm sorry, listeners, that's all of us, with personalities that are mainly governed by their astral nature, once again, that's you and me, to see clearly, to understand, accept, perhaps intellectually, the nature of the soul. The soul, however, sees the broad view. It has no sense of itself as separate in any way. And I'm going to add there, therefore cooperation is its natural state, because it is that sense of separateness that competition feeds off. Because I can look at Peter and say, I want to eat better than Peter does, therefore I need to compete with Peter. I'm going to beat you to the cafe to get coffee, Peter.
Hey, look, just before we go, just to remind you that you can listen to this program on Plains Media website, Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and we are now available on Substack. Each fortnight, every 2 weeks, we will upload a new episode of Emergence News for you on Substack. You just need to upload the app and search for Emergence News. And on Substack also, you can communicate with us directly. It's quite easy to make a comment and we will receive that. Or you can contact us directly at Plains Media, info@plainsfm.org.nz, or you can write to us, good old-fashioned way of correspondence. You can write to us at Plains Media, care of 154 Madras Street, Christchurch, area code 8011, New Zealand, Aotearoa.